Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to episode 4 of the Faithful Fans podcast. I am joined today by Noah Casper and Luke Cervello. How about you guys just go around and say how's it going?
What's up?
Hey, how we doing, boys and girls?
All right, so we got a definitely loaded podcast today, especially with the NHL playoffs. A couple upsets recently. So how about we start with the Lightning being swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Luke, go ahead.
Noah. I'll go. Shaw, I've followed sports my whole life, and I've really locked into every playoffs and every sport for as long as I can remember. And this comes to mind as the most surprising playoff outcome I've ever seen. Did the Jackets underperform in the regular season? Yes. Are they maybe a good 8th seed, if you will, or second wild card? Maybe. But you have one of the best regular season teams. No, did they tie the record for points?
Tie the record for wins.
Yeah.
For wins in the regular season.
Yeah, 62.
And you have them get swept. Unbelievable. Stamkos to me was the biggest. He disappeared.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Stamkos, Kucherov getting suspended hurt him. Their defense was crap. A lot of bad. Just they couldn't buy a goal throughout the whole series too. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
No, I absolutely agree. I think the Blue Jackets were very underrated, especially after the trade deadline. I know Duchesne didn't perform towards the end of the regular season, but he really turned it on in the playoffs, and that's a veteran presence in a locker room with especially like he could be like serve as a mentor role for Artemi Panarin. I think that's actually very good to have, especially in the playoffs. And Bobrovsky just played lights out against the top scoring offense in the NHL. So I think am I surprised the Blue Jackets swept the Lightning? Yes, but am I surprised they beat the Lightning? Not really.
Wow, that's a hot take.
I just think they have the defense. They have Seth Jones and Werenski, two very solid defenders, and they're young defenders too, so they'll be in the league for a while. And I just think their offense, the Lightning's offense is better, but I think the Blue Jackets have a better back end, and that's just my take. Am I surprised the Lightning lost? Not really, but I didn't expect it to go the way they did.
And the thing with Columbus's offense is they had 4 guys with over 65 points on their offense alone this year. So they exposed the Lightning's defense. I mean, I think we're sort of past the point of like analyzing the loss in and of itself. But do you think that somebody needs to pay for this? Somebody in the organization will be fired, traded, something in Tampa Bay? Well, yeah. What are you saying to the fan base if they're not?
Yeah, I mean, you would think, first of all, guys, I don't agree with either of you. I mean, I think that Columbus, I think they underperformed the regular season, but there was no way to foresee that they would win this series.
I didn't say that.
Secondly, I know, no, you didn't say that, Ryan. I apologize. I would say to you, Noah, they signed Cooper to an extension, their coach, recently, so I don't see them canning him. I do not think anybody will pay for this sweep. I think they'll run it back.
Do you think they should?
Yeah, I would run it back. I think one playoff collapse is too much to break up a great team. That's my opinion.
I think
one playoff collapse, because they made the East Finals last year. Don't forget that.
I just think they need to upgrade on defense. Like, the offense is obviously there. They got scoring from all 4 lines. They have a solid goaltender. I just think if they can add another a solid defenseman who can either slot in the second D line, I think they'd probably have a good shot at running it.
It was a fluky thing. They just get outplayed. It wasn't flush and say fluky. They just get outplayed randomly.
To me, honestly, the biggest story of the playoffs is the Penguins not being able to beat the Islanders once. You have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, and Phil Kessel, and you couldn't beat the Islanders once. I think that's more surprising than not as surprising, but I think it's a pretty big shocker that Penguins couldn't even manage to beat the Islanders once. What are your thoughts?
I think it's tough to it's tough to rip a team like the it's tough to rip a team like the Penguins because they've won so much and they've been so consistent getting in the playoffs and winning playoff series. But they had, they set a tough go of it this time. And I think that, Sidney Crosby doesn't have a point in 4 games that they're not going to win much. But, they always get a pass, I think, because they've just been they've won 3 cups in 10 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. What are your thoughts, Noah?
My takeaway from that series was more about the Islanders and the Penguins. I think a lot of people wrote them off because they don't have a lot of household names, but they have a hell of a coach who just won a Stanley Cup, and they're deep. They score. I think it's more the Islanders were a better team than we gave them credit for.
That's the weirdest thing, Noah. That a guy that won the cup and just pieced.
Yeah.
Did he get fired? It
was a money thing, right? He wanted more money. Is that what it was?
I'm not entirely sure. I think he's one of the only coaches in the history of professional sports who did not coach the same team the year after he won a championship and coached somewhere else.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a great coach. And the Islanders definitely have one thing over the Penguins. That's goaltending. Robin Lehner has had a tremendous comeback story. For those who don't know, he overcame addiction, and he just came back and had an absolute year, especially someone who wasn't as well known before this season. He played for the Sabres for a little bit. I think he was a backup, borderline starter for most of his career, but he was just lights out this year, and he proved all of his doubters wrong, and now he's a Vezina contender. So that's one thing that the Islanders had over the Penguins.
Just looked on June 18 of 2018, Trotz resigned from the Capitals due to a contract dispute.
Yeah, he wanted more money.
Yeah. So the Bruins game just finished up, and what are you guys' thoughts on that?
First of all, hell of a series. Sorry with that. I also think that. I think it's this simple. It's the Bruins' top line is just the difference in the series. They play well. They beat the Maple Leafs. That goes for this year and last year. But I think the Bruins, the Coyle line's been really good for the Bruins. The Coyle, Backus, and Johansson tonight line like that has been good. The Bruins made an interesting decision tonight to put Heinen up with Marchand and Bergeron, and it paid off with Pasternak with Krejci and Nebraska on line too. It paid off. Give Cassidy credit. One thing you have to give Bruce Cassidy if you're a Bruins fan, love him, hate him, like him, whatever. Nobody hates him. Love him or like him. He's not afraid to change things up. I think that was the knock on Claude Julien before Cassidy. Cassidy likes to mix things up. He's not afraid to do it. I like that about him.
Yeah, no, Cassidy's definitely had a weird career. I wasn't expecting much considering he's an interim head coach when Claude Julien was relieved of his coaching duties. But he's definitely proved me wrong, and he's definitely a great coach. And he's not afraid to call it like it is, especially when he's talking to the media.
He's a good coach.
If the Bruins are playing horrible, he'll call them out on it, and he'll switch it up to find something that works. And he's not afraid to take criticism.
No, not at all.
I think it's the most interesting series going on right now, just because it's close rivals. I think the Bruins win this series in 7. That's always been my opinion on this series as a whole. I think coaching is a big part of it, but Bruins in 7.
Yeah, Mike Babcock's already an established head coach, and Bruce Cassidy is getting to that level of established head coach. So I think Bruce Cassidy has a lot to prove, especially in this playoff series when you're facing against a young team like the Maple Leafs with so much speed, and your team's on the older side. Not necessarily older side, but you have a lot of older, grizzled veterans who are established players, and I think the veterans versus the young guys is definitely a good series. You'll never have a bad series if it's the Bruins and the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, always close.
I don't know if you guys have been following the Western Conference Western Conference side of the hockey playoffs, but those playoffs are going literally either way between the two teams. You either get blowouts or every single game has been like either blowout. I mean, right now the Avalanche and the Flames are tied at 0-0. But what are you guys' takes on that? Stars just beat the Predators 5-1 tonight.
I think the Stars look good.
Yeah, me too. They were right. It was a tough game, 3 losses, but they responded tonight with a good game, 4 win. They're just such a dynamic group. They have they're one of the more skilled teams in the league. Klingberg, Ben, Sagan, those are just skilled guys.
Yeah, Radulov too.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Bishop has been underratedly lights out this year. He's number 1 in save percentage and number 1 in goals against average.
Yeah,
he's definitely a Vezina contender. I think that's kind of flown under the radar, especially with the Robin Lehner story.
I'll say this to you. To me, the team that's had in the West that surprised me the most this playoffs is how bad the Sharks have been. Their defense has been literally a joke. Martin Jones couldn't stop a nosebleed. They're bringing in Dell here and there, but I don't know who they're going to start for Game 5. I think I saw that they're going to start.
They've both sucked.
Yeah. It's weird. Jones just had a bad year. It's not a bad goalie. He's had a really bad year.
He's been a career backup against earlier in his career as a backup for Jonathan Quick. So I can understand why the playoffs would be a little bit harder for him to handle, but his stats this season have been kind of abysmal. He's close to a 3.0 goals against average.
I think he's over it now.
Yeah, he's the Golden Knights, the Sharks. There's no reason to be confident right now if you're a Sharks fan. It looks like they're just going to bow out 5 or 6.
Yeah, they're down 3-1 right now.
Yeah, and they're trending downwards. They won the first game.
All right, so we're going to move on to a little NBA talk. What are your thoughts on the Clippers? I thought that comeback against the Golden State Warriors was something to be in awe over.
I think the major takeaway about the Clippers so far, at least, has nothing to do with the Clippers right now. They're not going to win this series. They might get another game or two, but they're not going to win this series. Right now, they're making their audition to Kawhi Leonard and Kemba Walker and Jimmy Butler, that playing for the Clippers can actually be pretty fun too, and that it's not only about the Lakers in LA. They have 2 max contract spots available this summer. They're intending to use them, and they have a lot of traction that they could land somebody big.
Yeah, I think with the Clippers that I agree, Noah, but let's just stop for a second and appreciate how many likable guys they have in their team. And Noah, you talking about these max slots? I saw the other day, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell make a combined $14 million. So if they sign big free agents, they might be able to keep guys like that and have them as role pieces and bring in studs. They have the most likable team maybe in the league. They just have guys that play hard. Pat Bev, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. Gallinari's a nice player. Always has been. The biggest thing with him has just been staying on the court in his career. A lot of injuries.
Yeah. Their biggest contracts, they cleared off the Avery Bradley contract at the deadline and the Tobias Harris contract.
Yeah.
Wilson Chandler is one of the highest paid guys in that team. He's an expiring contract. I believe Garrett Temple is an expiring contract at $8 million. So they have plenty of room if they want to do something.
I think they definitely have one of the more intriguing off seasons coming up.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Pat Beverly, I don't know how you couldn't love that guy. He's not afraid to go up against the best players in the world.
Nope.
And he just he leaves it all out in the court. And like you said, they're one of the most likable rosters. They really don't have a lot of controversy around them. To me, I think Kemba Walker would be a nice piece there. A player who doesn't bring a lot of controversy. He's a likable guy, and he can play with the best of them. So I think he'd be a perfect fit with the Clippers if he's willing to leave Charlotte.
I think the only problem with Kemba Walker in LA is Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, they should be focused more on wings and bigs than a point guard. I like Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know. Could they trade him? Maybe.
I don't see why you would.
If they thought Kemba or even Kyrie was coming,
I'd rather have a 20-year-old Shai Gilgeous-Alexander than a 31-year-old Kemba Walker.
Me too.
I wouldn't
I'm
like Jimmy
saying
Butler signing there.
what they might do, but I agree with you.
I actually think Jimmy Butler in LA would be the perfect fit for him. He's always been known as a guy who's very serious, very deeply competitive. And then I think he would be a perfect fit on that roster as a tough, serious, competitive coach in Doc Rivers. Then you get to play with guys like Pat Beverly and Montrezl Harrell who are tough, physical guys who really love the game. I think Jimmy Butler would actually find himself in a non-controversial setting with the Clippers.
Yeah, he does create a lot of
I
controversy.
agree.
But I think Doc Rivers will be able to handle that. That's an established coach who knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So next up, let's talk a little about Russell Westbrook.
Definitely been outplayed this whole series, that's for sure. For that crowd that thinks Damian Lillard's better than him, they've got fuel to their fire this postseason, for sure.
I don't think Russell Westbrook has won a postseason game since Durant left Oklahoma City. Not a series, maybe. A game.
Yeah, maybe.
Because the first year Durant left, they lost. They didn't make the playoffs, and they drafted Cameron Payne. Then last year, they got swept by Utah in the first round, and now they're down 2-0 to Portland. I mean, Westbrook is tough to play with. He's rigid. I don't know. It's tough to – there's more to the game of basketball, obviously, than triple-doubles, and people infatuate over his game because of this box score. But I would give me Damian Lillard over Russell Westbrook 10 times out of 10.
I
10 times out of 10.
I agree. I think this is I wouldn't count the Thunder out of this series yet, though. I think they can get. I think they have a little bit of life. Westbrook just needs to make his shots. Honestly, it comes down to that. I wouldn't write him off in this series yet.
Shot 5 for 20 last night.
I think if Westbrook can flip the switch, he's like unstoppable. He's definitely got that drive in him. But like you were saying, he's definitely tough to play with. And I don't know. Yeah, Luke, like you said, I think the series, I wouldn't count the Thunder out. I think if Westbrook can somehow find that like inner fire inside of him and he starts making shots, it's definitely going to be a different series.
He shot 66% from the free throw line this season.
Yeah, he
had a bad year at the line.
29% from three.
Yeah, he didn't have a great year. He's still a good player. All right, this one thing I wanted to bring up. I think that the way the Rockets are playing, they could beat Golden State. They could. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they could.
Definitely, especially without Cousins. If they're healthy, I mean, last year I think they would have beaten Golden State last year if Chris Paul was healthy.
Probably.
So it's tough. Golden State hasn't looked good, but I don't know. Houston, James Harden is finally starting to be productive in the playoffs, so I'll give him that. But
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the Rockets do have a shot, but I mean, it's Golden State. You know, they have three of the best players in the league. I mean, I do like Harden and Chris Paul together, but I mean, it's just hard to bet against Golden State in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
No question.
So we're going to move on. Would you say that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum have established themselves as playoff players?
No, way too early for that. They haven't even won the series yet.
I
agree, but the way they're playing against the Thunder, I think maybe it's time to take that into consideration.
I mean, it's definitely I think it's time to take them seriously for sure. I don't know if they win this series, they could go to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, they would have if they win this series, they're playing the winner of Denver and San Antonio to get to the NBA Finals. I mean, the Western Conference Finals.
Two teams they could beat.
Yeah, so if they get to the Western Conference Finals, absolutely. Sort of going back to Oklahoma City, do you think that if they lose this series in 4 or 5, do you think a change needs to be made there? If you really take a deep analyzation into this roster, it's really poorly constructed.
Yeah, it really is. I don't think their bench is all that great, and they don't really have.
They have no shooters.
Team. Yeah, they do. They do not have any shooters. They have a lot of slashers.
They have a lot of drive to the rim kind of guys, but they got to get like an established 3-point shooter.
They need like somebody like a JJ Redick. I'm not saying him, but just someone you can bring up the bench and make shots.
Like Paul George has a 3-point game, but other than that, talking about Steven Adams, who has no game outside the post. Westbrook can't shoot from 3. Jeremy Grant. I mean, there's nobody on this team outside of Paul George who lines up for a 3 and you don't, and you're worried.
Yeah, I feel like you need at least like a point guard or a shooting guard who can definitely take the 3-point. I don't really trust a small forward shooting being your main source from the 3-point line.
And the NBA has obviously evolved into being a stretch big kind of league. They don't have a single stretch big on their entire roster who plays meaningful minutes. I mean, it gets you by in the regular season, but we've seen them lose playoff series because of that these last 2 years.
Absolutely agree.
So we're going to move on to a little bit of NFL talk. What are your takes on the QB landing spots in this upcoming NFL draft?
I think Murray to Arizona is a done deal. We talked about this on this podcast before. It's just a matter of where Rosen goes.
Luke, more specific question: how many quarterbacks do you think go in round 1 a week from tomorrow?
I would say 3 or 4.
I'm at 4.
Who do you have in your 4?
I would say Murray off the top of my head. Murray, Locke, Murray, Locke. Oh, what's his face? Haskins. I'm trying to think. Who's the other 4 you had in mind? Who's the 4th guy?
Daniel Jones.
Oh yeah. He'll absolutely go in the first round. I kind of blanked on him. Yeah, those 4 guys. I think Greer will be a second round pick.
Yeah, I do too. I'm gonna give.
He could go on the way first. though. It's a possibility. You can't rule it out.
Yeah,
but if I had to guess, I'd say second round.
I'm gonna give you a hot take on this show right now. A week from tomorrow, Drew Lock will be drafted before Dwayne Haskins.
To who? Why? Who do you think will take him?
I mean, the growing sense from what's being reported, the sense is that Haskins is sliding down boards a little bit. I'm not convinced the Giants are going with a quarterback. And if you look at the draft order, outside of who in the top 10, who currently in the top 10 is taking a quarterback other than Arizona if the Giants don't? Nobody. The next team that you could see take a quarter, you have a handful of teams that could take quarterbacks, but it's not essential.
Yeah. Do you think the Bengals could take a quarterback?
I was just gonna say the Bengals. I could see the Bengals taking a quarterback at 11. Miami needs a quarterback now that they moved on from Tannehill. Washington could take a quarterback at 15. Those are all teams who you could definitely see taking a quarterback. The only team in the top 10 who I think could take a quarterback, Denver at 10 is another one, or Oakland at 4 has been discussed as well.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm the Raiders, I wouldn't give up on. I would give Carr and Brown a chance for at least a year, but they might feel differently.
If any team would do that, it would be the Raiders.
Yeah. No question.
Do you guys think the Bucks have given up on Jameis Winston yet?
I don't think they have, but I think they should.
He was really good in the second half of the year last year.
I don't think they have, but I think they should have.
I thought he was good in the second half of the year last year.
Good enough to get him the 5th pick in the draft. I mean, that draft class has been pathetic. Winston and Mariota, I don't think either is a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, Mariota's an average quarterback at best.
No, he's not.
I like Mariota.
Why?
I think he has the intangibles, but he just really has not a lot around him. I think that maybe if the Titans can get like an established number 1 receiver, you could definitely see a lot of.
They'll be a playoff team this year.
No, they will not.
The Tennessee Titans will make the playoffs this year.
Over who?
I don't know off the top of my head. They'll be a wild card playoff team this year.
So,
just a prediction. Relax.
So just to be clear, just to be clear, I want to clarify something with you then. So you think Tennessee will take his playoff spot? Let's assume New England, AFC North is gonna have a champion, and Kansas City wins the AFC West. So you're telling me that Tennessee would get a wild card spot over the Chargers, Colts, or Steelers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. I'd put the Chargers at the wild card 1 and the Titans at the wild card 2.
Who at the wild card 1?
The Chargers.
You think you're trying to tell me that the Tennessee Titans are a better football team than the Indianapolis Colts?
I think they'll have a better season than the Indianapolis Colts.
On what grounds?
It's just a hunch feeling. No, sometimes you just have a prediction. I think the Colts will take
not out of your ass and have no
last year. I like their defense better.
That doesn't win you football games anymore.
It's just my opinion. I think the Titans will be a playoff team this year. I think Mariota takes the next step.
Took him long enough if he does.
I think he'll take a nice step this year. And you have Harold Landry on that defense.
I mean, I want to see the guys succeed, but last year's stats were kind of pathetic.
Like, I'm not interested in seeing an NFL starting quarterback start 14 games and throw 11 touchdowns.
Okay, no. But 2 years ago, did you watch that game when he went into Arrowhead, won the playoff game?
That was 2 years ago. In the last 2 years, he has 24 touchdowns and 23 interceptions.
Okay, I think he'll take a next step this year. That's all. I'm just saying. I think he's gonna have a very good year.
Okay. You're more confident in him than the Titans are, who just traded for Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, I think they'll have a very good year. I think they'll have a very good year this year. They'll be the biggest surprise in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota.
I think one team we should really be looking at, and I hate to see it. I mean, I hate to say this, but the New England Patriots. I'm not too confident in them this year. I know they have.
That's.
I'm just saying they lose Gronk. They just signed Demaryius Thomas, who's just coming off a torn ACL or
torn Achilles.
Torn Achilles.
I'm not even convinced he'll make the team.
And their coach is the best coach in the history of sports at just getting what they need. They always find that guy that comes out of nowhere in a trade or something that ends up helping them. They'll figure it out. They always do. They've deserved, whether that be the trade deadline or now, they deserve the right to not be doubted. They've earned that. Bill Belichick earned that.
Have this conversation with me after the draft.
No,
that's fair. That's a good point. No.
I definitely agree. And I know Gronk was not as he wasn't in the offense as much as this year, but that blocking piece at tight end is really going to be a big hit for the Patriots.
And can't replace Rob Gronkowski. You know, it's harder. You can't replace the most talented player ever at his position. You can't. You just can't. But you can get a couple guys to try to help replace it.
Going back to the draft, do you think Denver is a lock to take a quarterback at 10?
Yes. I'd be really surprised if they did. But Elway's confusing with quarterbacks. You never really know.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they've been a disaster since Manning left.
Yeah.
At quarterback. A disaster at quarterback. Like, just drafting bums. Like Paxton Lynch.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Paxton Lynch. Who was the other guy?
Trevor Siemian.
They both suck.
Well, to be fair to Siemian, he was a 7th-round pick who was just sort of given the job.
Yeah.
Is Paxton Lynch is not on a team right now, is he?
No, he's out of football 2 years after being a first-round pick as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Something needs to be fixed in that scouting department.
Just a literal bomb.
They're receiving. They need to do something. If they do and have a rookie quarterback, you can't have your rookie quarterback throwing to Tim Patrick and Chad Hansen.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, if they do draft a quarterback and they keep the same receiving core, the quarterback will be blamed.
Yeah.
And
they're in a worse position than I think people realize. As a franchise, they're worse off than I think that some people realize.
Yeah. Their defense isn't what it used to be.
No. I mean, Von Miller is still producing, but that's one guy.
They just signed a couple.
Didn't they let someone go this offseason? Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall left. They brought in Bryce Callahan, who was the number 1 corner on the Bears last year.
Yeah, they did. All right, boys, is that it?
I think so.
Unless you want to move on to some MLB talk.
Yeah,
we didn't cover that one yet. So
yeah, sure.
All right.
So, with the MLB, are you worried about the Red Sox yet?
Yeah, I've gotten there. Yep, I've gotten there this week, these past couple of days. Last night, I officially became worried, yes. Because I think your whole starting rotation has had a home run problem, given up way too many bombs. Offense has been sometimes there, sometimes not there. Bullpen blows the game tonight. Pedroia can't stay on the field. Betts is struggling. Benintendi's hurt. It's just doomsday. Doomsday. There's nothing going right for this team. Nothing.
I'm
completely and totally concerned.
I'm still waiting for something to click, but that click just isn't there, and I just keep telling myself it's going to happen, but it's been 19 or 18 games?
19.
19 games so far, and really just have it. The pitching isn't there, and the offense isn't there, and they've been the only games they've really been winning. They've all been pretty close.
Yeah, they haven't really blown anybody out.
No.
They've won 6 games, and the biggest win they have is a 4-0 win over Baltimore.
Total disaster. It is what it is. They can still. It's a long season. Baseball season's a marathon, not a sprint, but it ain't looking good for the Boston Sox, the Boston Red Sox.
Who's been the most surprising team to you this year?
Well, I'd probably have to go with the Mariners.
Yeah,
definitely.
No. That's been the most surprisingly good team to me. Surprisingly bad team besides the Red Sox. What's up with the Rockies?
Yeah, 6-12.
After winning the wild card game last year.
I mean, their offense is something I never thought I would say. Their offense has been sputtering. They have some injuries. David Dahl is out, and somebody else is out, I believe. Daniel Murphy's only played 2 games. So once they get healthy, it'll be a different conversation, I think. And they're in a division with a lot of ground they can pick up, playing a lot of games against the Giants and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
What about the Padres? Do you think that they can hold on to what they're doing right now or not? They seem aggressive to win.
When I thought about the Padres for this year, I view them as a team that's going to win a game somewhere in the low 80s with wins. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're somewhere in between.
I could see them buying at the deadline, trying to push into the playoffs.
I mean, they might as well. They gave much out all that money. You might as well throw in all your chips in the center of the table.
Their minor league system right now is unfair. They have so many
Well, when you suck for long enough, you get good prospects.
Yeah. One of probably the worst trade in any sport in the last decade at least. How'd that trade work out for the White Sox? A 1-for-1 Fernando Tatis Jr. for James Shields.
Oh yeah, and you could have predicted it to be a bad trade when it happened too.
Well, to be fair, when it happened, Tatis Jr. was ranked the 30th prospect in the White Sox farm system.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did have a bit of a breakout, but
yeah, he just kind of and now he's like their top prospect, right?
Yeah, now he's the number 2 prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah, behind Vlad.
I mean, their farm system, I believe, has like 9 or 10 top 100 prospects in baseball.
Yeah, they're very loaded system.
So, another MLB thing. How about the Rays? They have the best record in baseball as of April 17th.
Not surprising for me at all. I picked him to make the playoffs. I had them as the number 2 wild card team preseason. I think they're a legit team. I think that they're going to be. I think they have a good rotation. I think that
a lot of grinders.
They have a lot of guys that get the job done. They're a good team, and there's not too many. If you told me I could have one pitcher to start a franchise with today, not too many guys I'd pick over Blake Snell. And they got him on a very team-friendly extension this past offseason.
Yeah, for a team that doesn't like to dole out a lot of money, they got their perfect dream.
Yeah, they really did. Their front office must have loved that.
Yeah, they did. I'm sure they did.
They got a hometown discount with Longoria, whatever that was, too, remember?
Yeah, for a long time.
They've actually kind of lucked out with that.
All right. Talked about a lot tonight. It's been a good podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, thank you for joining Faithful Fans Podcast, Episode 4, and we'll see you later.